Good morning, everyone. My name's Amy Hahn, and this is Gardening Tips Live. I'm a Knox County Master Gardener, and I'm joined by my friends and fellow Master Gardeners. Let me Gardening Tips Leigh Cheek, Margot Emery, and Brian Townsend, who's joining us from the parking lot at Dixie Lee Farmers Market. He's actually watching the Knox County Master Gardener table there. And so if you go to the table, he will pop out
Um,
and
we
go
have
answer your
corn.
question.
We have corn here today.
Oh, grab me some corn,
Okay,
and I'll
Hayes is
come and
down. I haven't looked at Davis yet, but Hayes is down at the other end.
okay. Well, if Davis has it, I want it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let me get this shared in the group. I got to get to
Okay.
the right place to do this. Open in a new tab, and so that you all can find us. And you probably won't hear this part because if you join us live, I don't think you start from the beginning. Um, so please click into the video. I can't spell to comment and see resources as we post them. Okay, and post that. And then back to the gardening tips group and to pin that to featured so that it's easy for everyone to find. And I found it and I'm pinning it
I
to
see it. Nice.
featured. And then I'm going to also do at everyone because we've been asked to do that. So it makes it easier for the folks who want to find it to find it. Yay! We are live and it is a good morning. Um, Hope you all had a good, safe 4th of July celebration. I know in my neighborhood, and I'm going to put in the video, I'm going to put, good morning, everyone. In our neighborhood, what is it? One group of folks kept theirs going till like 10:30 and then they stopped. And then probably close to midnight, another group of folks started shooting stuff off. But uh, that is the 4th of July in East Tennessee. Excuse me for that funny noise. I was turning my coffee mug around. Uh, some of the big news in gardening right now is the weather. You know, and this has happened, seems like this has happened the past several years, that in early summer, it's really rainy. And then all of a sudden, it's like the faucet turns off. And so a couple weeks ago, the faucet turned off. And so if you didn't have your plants in the ground before the faucet went off, you are going to really have to add some water to the situation. Yeah, Brian.
Uh, am I unmuted?
No, yeah, you're unmuted. We hear
Okay.
you.
Okay. The faucet's gonna be turned back on early this next week.
Really? Okay.
Yep. Oh yeah. I've been monitoring it. Yes, it is a little bit far, and anything can change. But I've been monitoring it. Yes, it is a little bit far, and anything can change.
Oh, someone's got the video not muted. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Monday is a slight chance. Monday night's another slight chance, but
Mhm.
the percentage chance picked up significantly coming Tuesday and then later.
Okay, cool. I mean, I would definitely appreciate some rain. Um, there's no way with a hose or even an irrigation system that you're going to fully replace real rainfall. I was amazed. Um, I did a class about doing rain gardens quite a few years ago, and we calculated how much water you get with just a quarter inch of rain on a roof.
Yeah.
And it is, I mean, it's like hundreds of gallons on the average roof. It is pretty amazing to think
Yeah.
about. So there's no way with your hose or irrigation system you're going to totally replace that.
No. One other thing, a side note on what you're talking about, Miss Amy.
Yeah.
Uh, Rainwater is much better for our plants than our city water, which is
Mhm.
chlorinated and fluoridated.
Right. So untreated water,
Yes.
the rainwater is better, and it seems to soak in really nicely. And yeah,
Yes.
so even a quarter inch or a half inch is better than nothing. But this time of year, most of the garden plants need like an inch or more of rain a week to really
Yeah.
keep growing well. Some plants are more tolerant of that. I've found tomatoes are quite tolerant of it. But if you do let them get too dry, the leaves will curl. And when you water them again, they will not always uncurl. So sometimes when they curl like that from water stress, they'll stay curled. And that's just normal.
And also water them in the morning.
Yeah, watering
Yeah.
in the morning is better. Um, Keeping water off the leaves is better.
Yeah.
Uh, if you have no choice but to water in the evenings, go ahead and water. But do try to keep the water off the leaves because that does encourage fungal diseases.
And the goal in the late afternoon watering, hopefully late afternoon versus evening,
Mhm.
is for the plant to be dry, the leaves to be dry before sunset, before it gets dark.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But, water is better than no water if the plant is getting drought stressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so do what you
Something else.
need to do. Yeah.
I wrote about that on our welcome post a couple of nights ago,
Mm,
several nights ago. We talk about watering deeply but infrequently, and
right.
that is good for our roots to move down further into the soil and stuff. But as Dr. Tom Samples talked to me about, uh, grass roots do
Mhm.
move further into the soil, but the downside is where the roots connect to the crown of the grass blades or
Uh-huh.
the clump right there. Um, if we water deeply but infrequently, those top parts underneath the crown will dry out and die, even though the roots are further down where there's moisture. And he says during these hot summer months, when it's bad and it's dry, no rain forecast,
Mhm.
to go back to the watering a total of 1 inch a week. So
Mhm.
depending on how many times you would water, like say 2 times, well then do a half an inch
Okay.
per watering, and then 1/3, so on and so forth, right there.
Mhm.
Because it's important to keep those
And you're
top
talking
parts
about
just
fescue grasses.
well, fescue and beloved Bermuda.
Okay. See, I think I've noticed oftentimes the Bermuda will just sort of, if we have a really hot, dry spell,
Yeah.
it'll almost go dormant.
Right, they go dormant on there,
Yeah.
but because of their root system spreading, no, not so much down, but
Horizontally.
horizontally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's part of it right there. One thing people can do is they go outside, and if their grass looks dull,
Hmm.
that's a good sign that they probably need to water at least a little bit.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to start our slideshow, and we're going to start with talking about something that I just personally find pretty interesting. Um, and it's something that tomatoes do, particularly heirloom tomatoes. And I'm going to hide my bookmarks so that we have more photo space. There we go. Okay. So this is a tomato plant. This is actually um, one of the dwarf tomato project tomatoes. If you're not familiar with it, it's an organization, a group of folk group of gardeners that got together. Oh, it's been quite a few years now. Craig LaHoyer is one of the founders of it, and he was working with someone in Australia in crossing heirloom tomatoes with a naturally occurring dwarf indeterminate tomato. And the goal is to make tomatoes that are good for homeowners and for smaller containers. So this is actually one of their tomatoes. It's called Sweet Scarlet, but it's a dwarf tomato crossed with brandywine. And so
Nice.
it's a really tasty tomato. I've grown them before and got a couple fruit off of them. But one of the things, the heirloom tomatoes, and so this has enough heirloom genetics in it. Oh, and they also breed them, they grow them out long enough so that they're stable when they're open pollinated. So you can actually save seed from these tomatoes and grow they should grow the same tomato when you save seed. So they are not what's called hybrids. But all of the tomatoes with a lot of heirloom genetics are prone to what's called faciated blossoms. So if you look at the center here, there is this really strange looking blossom. Okay, so this down here, can you see that comes to a point? That's the center of the flower, which is a normal flower. I should have taken a front-on picture. And so it has one set of pollen and pistil, the flower parts. This one has multiple sets that are all fused together. And so if you've ever seen the heirloom tomatoes that are giant, but they're sort of gnarly, they're a whole bunch of different pieces. That's what these fasciated blossoms make. And the normal blossoms make the more round or oval or whatever that normal shape for that tomato is.
There's
So
some science to that right there,
yes, there is.
faciated, but I don't think it's well documented.
Yeah, I think it's more complex than I want to try to get into. Plus, I haven't
Yeah,
studied up on it recently.
yeah.
But so a lot of times the tomatoes that come from fasciated blossoms, they're they're almost like raspberries. They're different pieces that are all fused together. And sometimes they have like bad spots in the center. So if you want to get really nice tomatoes, you don't leave the fasciated blossoms. If you're going for big tomatoes, you want to leave them. But they're just really, I think they're interesting. And you'll see that fusing together of blossoms, you can also have fasciated stems in some plants. I can't remember what I've seen it most on. I have seen zinnias that have done that. Have a fasciated stem where it's just like multiple stems all fused together. It's just interesting to see. Um, it is a mutation of sorts, but it's not a big deal.
Another important part of that picture
Yeah.
that, that you were just showing
Hmm.
is the gardener's hand being in the garden.
Yes. Oh, the other thing you can see here is this tomato is what's called a potato leaf tomato. And so it has big leaves, um, and not very many leaves on each um, set of leaves. And then in the background, you can see a normal tomato, and they're very different. You can also see this one doesn't have very much space between. This is what's called a node, and this is the next node, and it's only like an inch. And the normal tomatoes has like 4 or 5 inches between nodes. And so that's the dwarfing part of this one. They only get to about 4 feet tall. And if you're not in a windy spot, they oftentimes don't need extra support. So really nice. It's a really nice project. I like a lot of what they've done. Okay, so this is my tomatoes. You can see the basils in front. I've actually harvested basil from these twice. What I do is I'll take long stems and then I hang them up. I didn't take a picture of my hanging basil. But inside here, there's tons of tomatoes. You can see some of them. But all these plants, and they're different sizes because they're different varieties. So this one is probably Golden Jubilee, which is a real heat resistant tomato that makes golden fruit. Pretty tasty. This one's Big Beef, which is an old reliable. Oh, and zooming in, I can see, do you see the yellowed leaves? So I'm seeing a little bit of what's probably early blight showing up in here. If I were a great gardener, I would go through and take off all these yellow leaves and remove them from my garden. Some years I'm a really good gardener and some years not. You can see a little bit down here too, but not a lot. And I'm surprised that you're not seeing, you're seeing almost none on the Golden Jubilee, but it actually is getting more airflow and that probably helps. That helps with the early blight and the other leaf spotting issues. Okay, let's go on here. Oh, this is my pepper bed. I'm gonna pause this. One thing I do is I'll plant a whole bunch of different varieties of a plant of like peppers in a bed. And I have these little tags that I put down that have the names of them. And I'll actually go through and do a video. Can you all hear the video playback? Center to fence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, center to fence. And I'm just reading off the different varieties so that I know what's what. And I did this week. And another bridge to Paris. I actually did that last week, and it has been really dry, and I haven't gotten the hose out enough. I did mulch the bed, and you can see the hose laying there, but about 2/3 of them have died. And these are actually seedling morning glory that I need to go through. At this stage, they're super easy to pull out. So I can probably get that weeded out of that whole bed in like 5 minutes. But my pepper plants did not survive the heat and the dry of this past week, a lot of them. I do have still some on my plant shelf, so I'm going to try planting again. And hopefully it'll be a less stressful week and I'll get them all watered.
We talked about the fact that tomatoes really don't ripen or grow much during super high heat like we had.
That's
And
true. Yeah.
I was out watering and I was keeping an eye on the plants, but I was really surprised to find some of my Cherokee purples had turned red all of a sudden, and I think it was because the heat slacked off just a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll happen. That they're like right on the cusp of ripening. And then when it gets really hot, they just stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is another just a cool thing that I've kept going for a couple of years. This is a Tabasco pepper. It's about 3 years old, and you can see its stem here. This is in it's at least a gallon pot. It might be more than that. And so it's got a woody stem, and this is what you would call, well, it's in too big a pot to be called a bonsai, but I am bonsaiing it. Um, and so I need to do some trimming off and shaping, but it's a Tabasco pepper. And so every winter I do take it into a place with lights and I water it and take care of it through the winter. And it's just lovely, these little fruits here. And they are Tabasco and they're quite, is a complex pepper flavor. And they will turn red. So they'll turn bright red. And it's actually producing larger fruit this year than some years. So I think it'll be really pretty come fall. Let's see, this is um, a sweet potato vine, and it's an interesting one. It's a chartreuse color, and it's a variety that's been specially bred. It's pretty new for pretty leaves and good sweet potatoes. So that's sort of a new thing. Um, It's a whole line, and they're called Treasure Island. I've never really grown them before, but they just looked so pretty. Um, I got some. And this is not a container, it's just a cylinder around to protect it from weed eater damage and also to mark it out to my husband that this is a plant I want. because if you have a husband who sometimes goes out in the garden and is not an avid gardener, things can happen, and sometimes things happen. Okay. Um, we've been getting a lot of questions about cucumbers and more squash than cucumbers, but the same thing applies. They're both in the same family. They're both cucurbit family. And so both of them do male and female flowers. So this is cucumber flowers. These are female flowers. And so the female flowers are the ones that have the miniature fruit on the ends, at the base of them. And this is another picture of a female cucumber flower. It's a different variety. But you can see, the miniature cucumber there. And you can see this one here. Now this is another cucumber flower, but you can see that is just a stem. And so that is a male cucumber flower. And for most varieties of cucumbers and squash, you have to have both male and female flowers for them to pollinate. So, and we'll see some pictures of cucumbers that Leigh has in her garden that might be heat issues, but it might also be pollination issues. But we'll talk about that when we come to it. So this is a squash flower. It's not open yet, but this is a male one because it's just a little stick. And then this is a female squash flower. This variety has sort of a bulby end to it, but it has the squash fruit on it. And one thing you can do is if you're having pollination troubles, you can either take a paintbrush for cucumbers, or with squash, the flowers are big enough you can take a whole flower and you can move the pollen from the male flower and paint it on the female flower. And so that'll help with the pollination issues. I usually don't have much trouble with that because as soon as my squash flowers and cucumber flowers open, can you see the little guy in there? So that is probably a squash bee. There are some native bees that specialize in squash and cucumbers, and so they'll go around to all the cucurbits and pollinate them. But if you are having trouble with pollination, then there are ways, pretty easy ways to take care of it. Okay, Leigh, this is yours.
Yeah, this is a weed in the middle of my lamb's ear. It's pokeweed, and this is an ideal time to pull it up because what I don't want it is I don't want it to produce berries, which are poisonous to dogs and to kids, and also spreads aggressively. So, and then this is my border red vein sorrel, which is edible, but it also is a pretty border.
Is it lemony flavored?
A little bit.
Okay.
Got a real tart to it. Yeah. And then here's my cucumber.
Okay. I'm going to zoom in on the fruits because a lot of people are seeing this right now. And so you can see it's sort of skinny and then gets bulby. And oftentimes that can be a symptom of either a plant wearing out. I found cucumber plants generally produce a month or so. But it can also be pollination issues if you have incomplete pollination.
This was planted in May.
Okay.
And I was gone for a month, and it just had to survive on its own. And I got a few cucumbers off of it when I got back.
Okay.
But
I would say probably if you, keep it watered well and, help it along, it will probably revive and give you more.
Yeah. because we talked about this here about a month and a half ago, that I set it up so that it could shade some of my
Mhm.
greens. But
Right.
they're all gone now. Yeah.
Yep.
There's my tomatoes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you notice, you saw my picture of the tomatoes, they totally filled the cages. I do not prune my tomatoes.
Yeah. See, I prune the leaves off,
Hmm.
especially lowers, which gives them a lot more airflow. And also they're not putting their energy into leaves, they're putting their energy into fruit.
Are
And
yours in straw bales?
yeah, yep,
Oh, cool.
I planted in straw bales, yeah.
Now,
And
another question is, did you have a watering system set up for while you were gone?
nope,
Okay.
God took care of it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then this is my Malabar that's growing up along one edge of the straw bales.
Okay, tell people who aren't familiar with Malabar about what it is.
Okay, so it is, they call it a red vine, a spinach, and it is a Southeast Asian plant. The leaves are edible. So it's a green that you can have in the heat of summer. It loves heat. And so, it tastes like spinach,
Mhm.
and it grows up, and then eventually it grows almost probably 6 inches a day.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah. And it can be rather aggressive, and then it'll have pink blooms and blackberries, and it'll reseed itself. So I
Hmm.
planted this maybe 6 years ago, come back every year since.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
wow.
that's fun.
yeah,
I like plants like that sometimes.
sometimes.
Oh,
Yeah.
now, you may have noticed, if you watch regular, you don't see Malabar spinach in my garden. And um, it has the same, one of the characteristics that okra has that a lot of people don't like, that mucilaginous quality. And the folks in my household don't like that. So it's one I don't grow. But if you like that, it's great.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
And then this is my yellow squash plant. I've gotten off several yellow squashes off of it, and I've been trimming on its leaves. Yeah,
Mhm.
some. Yep.
Okay, so have the leaves been turning yellow or?
No, I just been trimming them to give them more airflow.
Okay.
Yeah. And then my arugula is starting to bloom. So there's a yellow bloom right there in the middle. And then here you can see the seed pods that are forming. And once you let arugula go to seed, you will have it forever, because it will reseed and reseed, and you will have arugula and arugula and arugula. Yeah.
Is that a good thing?
Well, if you like arugula, it's a great thing. If you don't like
Uh-huh.
arugula, it's a weed. Composting. So this is my compost pile that I set up last fall
Mhm.
with leaves and grass. And you want to go to the next picture.
Mhm.
And so you can see the compost if you dig inside, is a lovely dark chocolate cake,
Mm.
and just about done, but it's still just a little warm. And then what I did is I keep a bucket of you can see eggs and vegetables and fruit and stuff along that lines, um, and uh, and seeds and things along that lines. And then what I did is the next one is I put it into that hole, and I dug around and turned it over, and the worms will come up and eat it within
Mhm.
a few weeks. And so anyway, and the compost is still a little active, um, but it's pretty much done. I could just put it out in
Mhm.
the garden at this point in time, but I'm still putting uh I get buckets of fruits and vegetables from my neighbors, and
Nice.
I add to this. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, this is mine. Um, this is just a really nice native plant. It's coral honeysuckle. And then there's a volunteer plant that's been in my garden since I moved here called crown vetch, and it'll sort of cover over things. But the coral honeysuckle is really nice. The crown vetch, um, it's another one of those. If I were a better gardener, I would get out there and I would remove it. Sort of does take over. Um, its cousin, hairy vetch, is oftentimes used as a cover crop. Uh, and it's an annual, but the crown vetch is perennial. It'll come back year after year from the roots. Okay, this is another thing I'd been not taking care of for a while. This is an orchid. It's one of the miniature ones, and it's been trying to escape its pot for a while, and it got so heavy it wouldn't stand up anymore. So it was really time to pot it up to a bigger container. And this container is only about this big around. I know it's hard to tell from the picture, but it's really tiny. And so I pulled it out of its little container, and this is actually the container I was moving it to. And I don't know if you can see, I cut big slits in the side of the corners so there would be plenty of drainage, because that's one of the important things for orchids is drainage. They don't like to stay real wet. But when I looked at it, all of this stuff, now I think this one was probably on the backside, but all of this was dead. It was just dry and crispy and broke off. And so I took that off and I set it into its new pot that I'd had for quite a while. And so my orchid should be a lot happier. It blooms about once a year. And this that's coming out is not a bloom stalk. It's actually a leaf stalk, not a leaf stalk, a root. And what I figured out that I hadn't realized before, because I have another larger orchid that has recently put out a flowering stalk, the root stalks, the root, new roots are coming from below where the leaves are, but when it's doing a flower, it'll come out where the leaves are, like between the leaves. And so it's a little different looking. And they actually go straight up once they come out.
And they grow fast.
Yeah, they do. I might have pictures of blossoms or at least buds that are big next week. Okay, this is back out in the garden, and this is just a really cool little creature. It's a little plant hopper, and they do these little waxy tails. And some of them I have one picture of a green one with bright red eyes, and it has a waxy tail that looks like a feather plume coming out. So this guy just had a little waxy tail. And if you just have a few of them in your garden, they don't do significant plant damage, though if you have them in abundance, they can transmit diseases from one plant to another. This is actually the only one I saw out there.
The plant hopper nymphs, I just posted a
Yeah.
resource. The plant hopper nymphs are like cottony. They look like a cotton ball, but they have eyes.
Hmm.
And I remember somebody on Knoxville area gardening tips posted, "What is this beast?" and was terrified of the thing. They do look a little bit frightening.
Yeah, they're cool looking, but right, and they will hop around. And they're really only, like a quarter inch or less, generally. There are some bigger ones, but not so much in our area. And this is just a bug I found. I think it's something in the assassin bug family. It is a true bug, I can tell by the shape of it, but I'm not sure what it is. And if I have a moment before we're done today, I will pull out my phone and I will see if Google can help me. Okay, and this is just I saw this nice little skipper butterfly and decided to take a picture of it because it's night. I don't see very many butterflies these days. There was a time when there seemed to be way more of them. And then in recent years, I haven't seen very many. And the mourning doves, this is their second clutch of the year in my 5-inch container on my plant shelf. And I think they must know we're not any threat to them because there's a door right over here.
She looks calm and
Yeah,
trusting.
yeah, she's so used to seeing us. And so she's got 2 little chicks, and I read they can do up to 5 clutches a year. So pretty soon those babies are going to be fledging and that nest will be empty probably for a month or so, and I wouldn't be surprised if she comes back and does another one. Okay, pear tree is loaded. Um, it is so loaded, there is danger of branches breaking, and many fruit trees can do that. If you are seeing your fruit tree that's really getting stressed by so much fruit, this time of year, you'll probably see that more on apples and pears, because I think the plums are probably just about done, and probably a lot of the peaches are done. But you can still thin fruit at this point. And what'll happen is it'll put energy into the remaining fruit, and then they'll be bigger. Also, that gives you the opportunity to pull off any damaged fruit. So, um, what is it? It is good practice to remove excess fruit and have them at least a fist apart. I thought I had them that way here. I thought they were that way here just because of our frosts this year. But now I'm seeing some big clusters of fruit that were hiding from me before. Oh, Leigh, that's yours.
Yeah, this is my fig tree with figs on it.
Hmm.
And one of the things sometimes
Oh,
I do is I cut off once I see I got a big bunch of figs, is I'll prune it,
hmm.
and so it will stop growing and put all its energy into the figs.
Good idea.
And this is something that I'm considering doing a Chelsea chop on, which is my pink yarrow.
Okay, can you explain what a Chelsea chop is?
Well, a Chelsea chop is used to be when the Chelsea Flower Show would come around. You would do a cut back on your flowers so that you would have then a fresh growth later on. And so by chopping back this yarrow here, I will get another fresh set of blooms from it.
Now, does that work on every kind of plant?
No, it doesn't. But it works on several perennials. So it works on yarrow, it works on salvia, it works on catmint, it works on like wildflowers like brown-eyed Susan and black-eyed Susan.
Mhm. And then there are some that you cut back before they flower.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah, that's one of my phlox that are coming in and blooming. And then this is aster. Now that's one of the things I could do with this aster plant. It's unusual that it's blooming this early. Usually it's a August, September bloomer,
Hmm.
but it's already blooming. It started blooming last week.
Yeah, that's odd.
Yeah, and then I think the next picture is a close-up of the aster. Yeah.
Hmm. Now that's interesting. It's got some that are really opening up, but some that are still super tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then here's where I did a Chelsea chop on my brown-eyed Susan, which is
Hmm.
a native plant. And then the next one, see, this is when they're really tall and they have a
Hmm.
tendency to fall over. If I do a Chelsea chop on them, they are then stronger.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
So
and some
I,
people,
yeah.
some people call falling over lodging, and I've never understood why that's the name for it, but that's what they call it. So if you ever hear an experienced gardener talking about, my flowers were lodging, that means they were falling over. Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
and
Leigh, this is
this
another
is
one of yours.
yeah, this is just butterfly weed.
Oh, cool. What's under it?
Oh well, that's a mistake. Um, that is my grandmother called it bishop's weed.
Mm.
Around here they call it snow on the mountain, and it is a very aggressive ground cover. Um,
Okay.
and especially if it's in the sun. Uh,
Mm.
and yeah, but it's funny. I love seeing it in the spring, but about this time of year, it starts to sort of die back when it gets too hot and it's in the sun.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It's really pretty when it's not heat stressed. I'm looking
Mm.
at a
Uh-huh.
picture of it at North Carolina State Extension, and
Uh-huh.
it's
Mm.
euphorbia. You know, we have so many euphorbias growing in our areas and around the world. That's a big plant family.
Hmm. Okay. Oh, that's more of the brown-eyed Susans, isn't it?
Yeah, that's my brown-eyed Susan that I gave another Chelsea chop to. Yeah.
Mm.
Especially like when it's at the edge of my garden. And
Hmm.
so I want it to be shorter so other things show off. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Oh, and this is another mistake. This is dog bane.
Okay.
Somebody gave it to me and told me it was swamp milkweed
Oh.
because when you break it off, it does have that milky substance inside.
Hmm.
But it's an aggressive root grower,
Oh,
and
no.
it is a native plant,
Hmm.
but it's not designed for, shall we say, home gardens. It's more
Hmm.
designed for the woods. Yeah.
Okay.
And then here's my my pollinator garden, and in the middle there is my wild bergamot, which is blooming beautifully, which I could also give
Hmm.
a Chelsea chop to.
That's
Uh,
pretty. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, you know the butterflies, the bees, and the hummingbirds love it.
Hmm. Oh, and you've got some coneflowers
Yeah,
and some, is that tick seed or
yeah.
coreopsis?
No, that's
No?
actually coreopsis. Yeah.
Oh, coreopsis. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, tick seed is a common name for a coreopsis.
Coreopsis. Right, right. No, actually, no, that is I'm sorry. No, that
No.
is Cosmos.
Oh, cosmos. Okay, the yellow cosmos.
Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
then what's this in the back?
Oh, that is mountain mint.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that's the narrow mountain mint, isn't it?
Uh-huh, yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
Uh-huh.
How
You have a
long have you been
nice.
cultivating this area, Leigh? Because you know you've
Um,
got great. Oh,
it's only about a year and a half old.
my goodness, the bergamot
Mm,
has grown so fast.
It has. Yeah,
yeah.
I bought a lot of nice little plants from
Hmm.
and I planted them the fall before last. And I got them from Overhill Gardens.
Nice.
Yeah, so I tried to do a lot of natives.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is the end of our slideshow for today. And it seems like I said I was going to go get something, and I didn't go get it.
Oh, you was like the you were looking at the bug, and you didn't
Oh, the
know
bug.
That's
Okay.
right.
the
You
assassin.
guys talk, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Sounds
I
like she's
think
got
I,
the bug.
Well, she wanted to take a picture of it and research what it really was.
Brian, you're waving your hand. What's up?
yes, ma'am. I wanted to interject when y'all were talking about thinning your fruits. It's best to do this when they're flowering. And you'll have less stress on your tree and have bigger fruit.
Oh, okay.
But like Miss Amy says, you can do it later. But developing that fruit takes a lot of energy and nutrients and water from your tree roots. and that stresses it out right there. But if you do this proactively by taking the blooms off, just pinch them off about I think it's every 8 inches or something like that right there. You'll have less fruit, but they'll be better developed.
I know the frost can hit fruit tree blossoms.
Well, yes.
Uh, so
Yeah.
watching for the blossoms, would that be April or late March or so?
I'm trying to think. Yes, it is right there. But we had a weird spring, so we had a late frost, even though we would normally do something like thinning out our blossoms in there. And we had a late freeze come in and knocked a bunch out again. So I remember that from earlier this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad. And I've talked to Dr. David Lockwood. Um, is there any way to prevent something like this or do something ahead of time, like maybe pinch the blooms before the freeze, and then more blossoms? And he said, no, it doesn't. It doesn't work like that.
They
I'm,
had looked at horticultural oil, spraying that on to protect, but I think the studies weren't that positive.
uh-huh.
What did I
I
miss?
He didn't say anything about that right there. I guess they were just talking about the blossoms. Well, blossom buds are forming. It almost look like a pimple on the tree branch. And I think that's if it's got bark over it, that should protect it. But apparently, uh, those buds are anxious to get out, so to speak. Um, and if we have a nice a period of warm weather that encourages the blooms to break open, and then we get a freeze after that. That's what does it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Amy, we're puzzled. Did you actually save the bug?
What, the bug? It was actually dead when I found it.
Are you talking
But
about me?
it is an assassin bug.
Oh,
It is hematoma something something nigro rufa.
ooh, hoofda.
Yeah, what a name. So that's its scientific name. And um, it is an assassin bug. So those are beneficial. Yay.
It depends on which side of the pinchers you're on.
Yeah, you wouldn't want it to bite you, but
They're
it is
serious
a
predators of the things we don't want.
yeah. So it is an assassin bug, beneficial bug. Yay. I always like it when I get it right. I don't always get it right. So, I like it when I get it right. Um, oh, another thing we need to talk about is this coming Thursday, Knox County Master Gardeners is doing a class at the Eastern Region Extension Office at Downtown West Boulevard, and I'm going to be the instructor. So
Yay.
I'm going to be doing a class on
Uh,
bugs, and it's going to be sort of centered on what is it? We're going to call it what were we going to call it? Bugs without borders. Um, because
oh goodness, yeah.
bugs don't respect the borders of different countries. And
Oh,
so here in the US, we've seen a lot of bugs come from other countries. And what does a gardener do about that?
yeah.
And how do we sort of orchestrate and plan our garden for bugs? We more have to plan for the pest bugs that come in. The beneficials we're fine with, but when we have pest bugs that come in, it's good to plan your garden knowing that that's going to happen in the future.
Amy, is that on July 12th?
It is July 10th, Thursday.
All right. I'm trying to find it on the calendar to post. I do see it.
Oh, good. Yeah. So I will be doing that at the Eastern Region Extension Office, 10 o'clock, 10 to 11 o'clock. And so would love to see you there. And we'll get it posted. So you were able to post it on our calendar. That
Yeah,
is
I'm
happening.
just about to post it.
Awesome. Yeah. And so, I will be there doing that. And if you come and you're in our gardening tips group, be sure to let me know, and love to see people in person. And Brian.
Miss Amy, you're talking about your program and talking about bugs from other countries and stuff like that right there. Have had to answer questions, people who's got bugs invading their yard. They don't want any bugs. And I said, number one is that that's not possible. Number two, it's actually counter beneficial.
Right.
You need pollinators and stuff at the very least.
Yeah.
But when you were saying that bugs don't know borders, you're talking about countries. I was telling them bugs don't understand your yard.
Right. They don't.
They see dinner or supplements for their young, and they go in and harvest it. They don't understand. And
they
then,
don't understand fences.
Right. Yeah. And they don't realize that actually plants, especially flowering plants that are attacked, are actually developing resistance, but they're able to grow better with the attack as opposed to nothing at all.
Right. Yeah. If you have a minor attack.
Right. A minor attack. Yeah.
Yeah. There are major attacks of insects that will wipe out a certain plant in your garden. But that's why, as gardeners, if you remember the picture of Leigh's pollinator garden, and I think I'll go back to that, there's a lot of variety there. There's not just one species of plants. There's not just one type of flower. And so if something came through and wiped out one of those things, it would still be a pretty garden. And so that's what we want to do as gardeners. If some insect, like right now, the ash trees are getting really, impacted by the emerald ash borer. If all the trees you have in your yard are ash trees, you're either going to have to invest a lot in treating them, or you're going to have to let them go. And so that would be a sad prospect if everything in your yard were something you had to let go of or invest a lot of finances in keeping it alive. But if you had a variety of different things, you could say, well, I've got 10 different trees here. I can let one of them go. And so that's something you have to think about as a gardener. How are you going to do it? Are you going to do a huge row of all one plant? One of the things we've seen recently that I know Brian's been pretty involved in is rose rosette disease has become a major problem in roses. And one of the issues is quite a few years ago, a really carefree rose called Knockout, rose series called the Knockout roses came around, and they ended up in every public landscape just about, or commercial landscape. One of the issues is knockout roses are very susceptible to rose rosette disease. And so a lot of folks are having to take out those knockout roses. And when they're 50% of a commercial landscape, that's a lot. Now, if they were part of a varied landscape, that would be less of an issue. So that's some of what I'm going to talk about.
And also natives are lovely for
Natives are great.
that.
Yeah. We do have
They've
issues that,
survived, millions of years in
yep,
this area. Yeah.
right. Well, but we do have issues that sometimes the natives are close enough of a species to that the pests that come from foreign places will attack our natives. And so that's a hard one.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
Yeah. So a varied landscape with a lot of diversity is always something you want to look at doing. Yeah. I think we have 2 minutes, right? Those
So
nice
just
signals.
this
Yeah.
is a big subject, Amy, but just some
Yeah.
quick takes on it. What can people be planting in their vegetable gardens right now?
Oh, in your vegetable gardens now, any of the shorter season summer vegetables. Um,
Beans.
so you can squash, beans. You're probably getting toward the end of the opportunity to plant okra, though some of the okra varieties are quicker than others. You could still plant tomatoes, probably getting toward the end of planting cucumber. Not Cucumbers don't like it when it's this hot, so I wouldn't advise planting cucumbers. Um, Peppers, you could plant, though I would recommend getting plants. You wouldn't want to try to start from seed now. What else could you plant now? Um, I'm sort of going blank on some heat loving. Oh, southern peas.
Yeah.
Like all the southern peas would really love it right now. And most of those are under 90 days. Okay, so we're at the beginning of July. Our first frost is generally toward the end of October. So you have August, September are going to be warm. And then October is going to get cooler and things are going to slow down. So that's 30, 60. So you probably have 75 days. When you look at a seed packet, and this is fava beans, which are not a hot, this is a cool weather crop. But all the packages, almost all the packages, or if you look online, you can find days to maturity. So this fava bean says 80 days to maturity. Most of the beans are under 90 days. So you should be good. Bush beans are more like 60-day range. Um, there are probably some watermelons you could still plant. But mostly I know there's lists of fast growing warm season crops. And so if the folks who are looking up stuff to post in our comments here, I know there are lists of those. So any of those would be good. And let me see if I've got
I'm posting a link to the home fruit and vegetable calendar.
I
Thank
know
you.
I'm looking for I've got that sheet and I'm not finding it. So let me go. Let's see, you put the home fruit and vegetable calendar. Okay, let me find it. Because there is a resource on there that really gives you good stuff. So if you go to the digital version of the calendar, I guess I'll share my screen again. Okay. So this is the digital version of the home fruit and veggie calendar. If you're ever wondering what you can plant now, this gives you some good ideas. It goes through what the frost dates are. But the second resource that says garden planning and planting, that really is an excellent resource. So you can just click on it on the digital version. And if you scroll down and make that window a little bit bigger, I'm going to quickly scroll down to the very end because I know at the very end there's this lovely chart. And so right now we're in the window that you would be doing some of the things for fall planting. I think all the fall planting is July 1st or after. So snap beans, we're a little bit late for lima beans, but given that that's last week, if I wanted to, I might chance it bean seed is inexpensive. I wouldn't do it with plants. We're still a little bit early for collards. I think we're a little early for fall cucumbers. I think they'll be really stressed with the heat. If you could give them some shade, they would probably be fine. So they mentioned mustard, Irish potatoes. Still, to me, it seems a little hot for that. Summer squash is a good one. Tomatoes. And they're not recommending peppers, but that was just a week or so ago. So, if you find some that are shorter days to maturity, you could probably get away with those. But that's the recommendations here. And see, like with the watermelon, if you find one that's a faster days to maturity, because that's just a few days ago. So you can push it a little bit. Oh, are we done? Is it time? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. And I think it's time for us to say bye and happy gardening, everyone. Be sure to keep your garden watered, take care of yourself, and we'll see you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.